Hi, everybody. Corrie Thorne, spiritual healer. Uh, Coming in to do the weekly forecast reading for whatever is happening in the air right now. And this is January the 14th. So, this is right after we have just finished the More Than Existing Summit, and also right in the midst of just coming through the new moon. And I'm just looking at myself going, oh, you don't really look any better than the video you just posted. So if you're on my Facebook, and I'll get it up on YouTube as well. But if you have not seen the video that I made at like 1:30 last night, like in the morning, and it's like everything is like bursting from me, and I'm being told to keep most of it, excuse me, into my writing. So I'm trying to write through, and I'm writing the fifth book, jumping ahead to the end books, even though the other ones are in editing, and like we got a lot happening, and we got the oracle cards uh in the midst of getting the booklet done so we can get these off to publishing as well. There's a fucking lot going on, and it's the same thing. So there's a lot happening, there's a lot in the energy. But this week's forecast reading is truly about I feel like I'm in the lord and ladies type of energy. Like there's a lot of that whole sense of like we're back in this uh, uh, primitive time, and we're thinking very primitive, primal, instinctual way of thinking, instead of thinking from the astral plane of where, you know, time is different, life is different, and we speak a language of unconditional love. So we're trying to really like think in that primal state of just like animal instinct, and we're running off of fight and flight brain, and we're so there. And I'm like, and this is how it, how it really feels when change is happening. There's a lot of fear stories, there's a lot of fear being spread, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of trying to like really trying to get everything to go in one direction. And really truly what they're telling me as a channel and in this week is that everything is not going to fall into one. It's like planting a garden, it's like planting flowers. You can't squeeze every single flower into one pot and expect it to grow. If your pot is this big and you try to fit like 12 different little plants in there, they will choke each other off, and not intentionally. They're all trying to have room to expand and to grow. And so it's like, so one will die, two will die, like it'll, like the plants will not be able to survive. And so if we all squeeze everything into one way of thinking, into one way of living, into one compact little suitcase like living, one pot, then the roots, the grounded and rooted, it will not lock together and become stronger. It will actually become smaller. And so what's on top will become smaller, and the roots down the bottom become what they call pot bound. And so when you get all of your thoughts and you put everything, you put all your eggs in one basket, you put all your thoughts into one, you only see one view, one objective, one view, you will get pot bound. You get your roots will start to become so locked and so tight that no nutrients can get in there. No, it's not able to grow. And then parts of you start to dissipate, you start to fade away, which means you start to head into the shadows, and your shadow self starts to come to life, and your truth and that sense of loss of how come I'm so far away from myself, and that sense of integrity and knowing who I am. And I can hear myself talk, and I don't like this voice, and I don't like who I'm becoming, and I don't like what the world is becoming. So if you're a really big part of that whole blah 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 in the world right now, is that you're actually a reflection of what is happening in the world, that you are reflecting that same energy. And if we just know that we can put one or two, we can put one or two possibilities that maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's a different way to look at things. If we can have a perspective, and we can take a few that we're so determined to cluster and keep together, and if we just put it over here, let's put our thoughts in a new pot. Let's put our words into a new pot. Let's put it into some fresh ground. Let's go to a fresh earth. Let's start again. Let's like start planting new seeds. Let's start over, and let the seed like give the roots a room to expand, and then watch the little sprouts and all the new stories, the new things that will start sprouting up. And it'll be green, it'll be hope, and you'll be watching it with hope, and you'll be hoping for, that it grows up to be beautiful and big, and just and and to see it like, and then there's such an there's an excitement, then we have excitement to see what's growing. But everything is fighting over in this world right now is old. No matter which side it is, no matter what's happening, it's old. And it's all still in the same pots. So you got what looks like the same in the same pot, in the same space, fighting over the same thing, doing the same thing constantly. Who's going to come over here? Who's going to be the ones to get in that? It's going to be the everyday people. It's the everyday, it's the everyday goddess. It's the everyday. It's got to be that whole sense of, are you willing to plant a new seed? Are you willing to let a new thought get in? Are you willing to look a new direction? If we all, if we all turn the dial down, and we turned the volume down, and we all went a little bit quieter right now, and we all went a little bit, then we wouldn't be even contributing so much, because we wouldn't be giving and supplying life and energy to where it's really loud. And that's a part of it, is that it's like watching a disaster. It's like watching, when you're about to watch somebody like fall over, and it's like you don't want to look, but you want to look, and you want to laugh, but you want to cry, and you want to go help, and you don't know what to do. Same thing. And that's kind of what the world is in right now. And we're in a lot of that energy. So that's happening all the way around us. And I feel like we're being observed from outside of ourselves. And we're also being observed from within ourselves. So what's happening outside, what's happening inside, and we're inside that, and I keep calling it like the snow globe. We're in this snow globe energy, and it's like, and so when I first started to see that, it was all about the snow globe. Now it's about an hourglass. Now it's about an hourglass. And we hold on so tight to our views, our thoughts. We hold on so tight to the energy of words. And it's amazing how much energy there are in words, and how we're so triggered by words. And there's a lot of people make a lot of money after knowing that they can trigger people into fear with words, and just that whole how you fall into it and just say, this is happening. And it's like that whole sense of just sit the frick back down, calm down, tell all sides, look at all sides. Look at all so this is where it's about us this week. Look at yourself and all sides of where we are. And where are you getting really stuck? Where are you, where's your pot? Where's your flowering self? Where's your blossoming self getting pot bound, rooted and grounded? And I always say that when I look at, I spent a lot of years in one town, but I've done a lot of moving around in my life, and a lot of shifting around. And it would just be this desire. I just feel the need to go. I just feel need to try something new. I just feel need to take that leap of faith. I just feel need. And that's kind of where we are in our thoughts. It's like, and I was like, I just feel need to just kind of let go, to just change my thought, and we need to start to be able to look beyond our words, look beyond our thoughts, look beyond everything that we're looking at, and to be willing to stop trying to put everything into every egg in one basket, every pot in a, trying to squeeze everything into one box. Like, we can't squeeze life into one box. We can't put everything into one and expect it to be able to stay in there. Everything will become crammed, cluttered, fall over, fall out. And there will be one little thing that's in there, one little plant that will become the rebel and say, fuck this, this is not working for me. I don't want to be in this. And so it takes one to want to be in a new pot. It takes one to say something a little bit different. It takes one to make a different choice. And so if one of your thoughts starts to think another way, if your eye somehow takes a little glimpse over there and you see something beautiful, and you see something, oh, that's so pretty. Oh, that looks like it'd be fun. Oh, that looks like hey, it's not so crowded over there. Like going to the beach, right? It's not so crowded over there. I think I'll go over there. And then we can let so much of the thoughts into that place. And then we know we got to put a boundary, because we can't let it get overcrowded, because we'll get rooted and we'll get pot bound again. But then if you come over here and you can move and shift it again and say, okay, well, there's lots of pots. So how about I put my thoughts in all of these places, and then I nurture it with loving words. And if you've never seen that science project in school or that project that you can do with energy, and you plant these seeds, and what you speak to one and be really asshole to it and yell at it and scream at it, and then be very nice and nurturing and loving to the other one, see which one will grow. Try it. Try it. Try it for yourself. See what really happens, because I'm telling you, all of that negative stuff over here, that one doesn't grow. This one over here will. And it's the same thing with planting flowers. Trust me, I've tried it. I've tried putting tomato plants in pots, and I've tried putting a whole bunch in so I wouldn't have so many pots around. And then I've put one or two in. And the one or two in one pot, they grew. They had big tomatoes on it. The flowers came quicker. Everything blossomed and everything expanded and grew. The ones that I put too many in, some of it died. And then all was left standing was the one in the middle, because the one in the middle was the one that just had the strongest sense of where everything was kind of there. Or there'd be one hanging off the edge that would just be like barely hanging on. And so when you truly can look at life from a creative way, when you can see beyond that one dimensional, and you can think, okay, if I look beyond myself and I look at life in the way of how nature survives, or how flowers and trees survive, if we could live our life that way, if we could think that way, then we'd be vibrating on a whole different frequency, a whole different energy. We would be starting to believe that we're here to coexist, but we have to leave room. We have to expand. We have to, we have to have different species. We have to have different things so that the ecosystem works well and so that the earth stays together. And well, if we look at our lives like that, if we let ourselves be that this whole collective consciousness, and this whole, I'm like, how many movies did you watch where everybody was all dressed alike, looking like, look at Star Trek. Yeah. And they go to some of them planets and you look at things. So in the mothership itself, everyone would have the same uniforms, but of different colors. You ever noticed me? See, I watched all this stuff when I was a kid, or when I was young. No, I still watch it now. But if you look at it, so everyone on the mothership, on the discovery, that were out there to discover new lands and to be neutral and to stay neutral. Well, all of those that were on that ship, they all had different color uniforms, but a likeness. They all knew they belonged to the Federation of, right? And so then they also had, I know this is crazy, but it's the only way I can describe this message to you this week. And so then they also had these little buttons that they all could communicate to each other and they could stay in contact with each other, but they all had their own minds and they all had their own identity, and nobody tried to change their minds. They were allowed to think for themselves, they were allowed to be themselves, and they coexisted. They went to planets and places that were at war with each other, because one would become a rebel and want to break free from that sense of everybody looking alike, being alike, thinking alike, having to fight for the same thing, do the same thing, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so that would start to that planet would be dying. It wouldn't be surviving. It wouldn't be able to exist in a world, or it would appear, it would have the illusion to the outside world that it was doing so well, it was thriving, until you got in and spoke to the people in there. And if you only seen the council on the outside, the council would put off the great story because they were the ones that were thriving, and every little person on the inside wasn't thriving and wasn't happy, but they weren't allowed to speak that. And the only way the Federation would know that was by getting to the people, getting to the everyday people. And that's kind of where we are, is that we've stopped listening and being supportive of our everyday people, and we've become fighting for things that are like, bah, like strangers, like that you don't even know, that don't have your best interests, and that's it. And so let your thoughts come back here. Start planting new seeds. Start thinking that if I can put these plots, start changing your life. Start making your life the priority. Start doing the work on the inside to find your way back home to self, hope, love, faith, compassion, kindness. And I can't keep saying these words enough. And in the sense of this sense of ascension and ascending, is that when you look at life and you look at, and I'm teaching this tonight in my level 4, is that when you look at ascension into the sense of dimensional, and it's like when we be able to move beyond this place, is that we have this like this points of existence that we live in. And so the one dimensional is like the seed, and you cut, and it's like gaining the information, all that stuff that we do. And so it's like living that human existence and being only about that. It's like being that baby, and it's only about me. It's all about me and your world, and like everybody got to take care of me because I don't know how to take care of myself. That energy. But we're expanding beyond that thought. And so as you grow, you expand beyond that thought. And so when we're looking at like living within the seventh dimensional look and looking at the world, is that that's why people like myself, the channels, the mystics, the crystal children, the indigo, you have such this like sense of awe and wonder of the stars, the moon, because you see everything up there and you see it in such a peaceful way, but you also know and you're very aware that what we see as beautiful is is fires, and it's like it's burning fires that you can't get near, and there's a lot of destruction happening up there. There's a lot of endings, a lot of stars dying, but there's a lot of new beginnings. But through it all there's still beauty, but there's a sense of peace and come togetherness. And that's where we need to find within our lives, is where do I bring peace into me? How do I start to live from the sense of seeing life through the eyes of creativity? Because when we can see the life through the eyes of creativity, you actually start thinking forward thinking thoughts, and you're not so stuck in the past. You're not root bound and held hostage to your own triggers and how you're being triggered and the past stories and past history, that's been attached to that trigger that's now there. And everybody that you're looking at that looks like somebody of your past, you start to remember, well, it's not them, and I'm not 12, and I'm not 5, and I'm not 10, and I'm not 20, and I know different and better. And just because that person looks like that or they might sound like that doesn't mean that that's what they are. And so when we start to be able to think beyond that, our world starts to change. We only find peace when we find our own personal peace, our own inner peace. So be willing to hop over into a new plant and new pot and get into some new dirt and find nutrients and find that light and that sense of love, by allowing yourself to give yourself room to think for yourself, to get back to being able to use your own mind. Because I'm telling you, that's what we need right now more than ever. That you truly start to trust that you have everything that you need inside of yourself, and that we are not 5, and we don't need to be having these kind of tantrums in life, but um, we're ready to start to let beauty and light show again, and we're ready to start living in that. And so back to the lords and ladies kind of days that I was talking about back here, is that they only knew what they knew. And so some of the actions, the behaviors, the fights were over a limited amount of knowledge on earth. They may have had a lot of wisdom, from some may have had a lot of wisdom, but people weren't ready to hear it, and people didn't want to hear it. And so, we we would do crueler things because we didn't know better. And now we know better. We are awake. We are aware. We're not just freaking waking up. I'm sorry, but we've all arrived awake at some degree, but we became suppressed, conditioned, and we shut our own selves down. We avoided what we didn't want to see until everything was in front of our face and we have to face it. And that's our life. When you fall to your knees and you go through, something fated or traumatic happens, then you got to face your reality and you got to walk through your suffering. And we got to take the journey through that flames and walk our own journey. And we're here again now. And I can tell you that when you can climb to the top of the misery and recognize that if I move everything else out of the way, I can really truly face and walk through with love for myself that I deserve. I'm worthy to, and to acknowledge that my pain story is real. But this anger or this destroying somebody else is not going to make my pain go away. In the end, it's going to contribute to it more. And are we ready to stop inflicting pain on ourselves and on others? Are we ready to not be stuck in our old stories? Are we ready to let the everyday beauty of us, the everyday sense of self, the whys to life was, so that we could live expand with room to expand, room to grow, and that we didn't have such a greed desire to cram everything in or to know everything. And it's like even watching neighborhoods right now, we're squeezing everything in closer. How about we give each other room? How about we give each other space to be able to run and join and have fun, but also knowing that you can walk out through your front door and meet each other in the middle. You can invite somebody into your back and you can have a party. You can, you can come back together. So how about we all walk out through our doors of ego, and we walk into the light and we meet each other in the middle, and we find a place in the middle, a common ground, and do that with yourself. Meet your own self in the middle. Stop fighting with your inner, with your own stop fighting your own David and Goliath story, and just know that the so-called enemy that we're always battling is our own ego, our own fears, our own stories that we get trapped in. And let's meet ourselves in the middle. Let's come home to the core essence of us, and let's operate from right here, from the heart center, and let's be the change we want to see in the world. Let's start with us. I love you all. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.